Misha here, and as promised last time when we left off with the history of the LMT Estonian Rahi R20, we're going to compare. This is the shooting video. There's no history in this, no military details. We already got those out of the way. We covered the 416, including the most up-to-date info on the G95A1 in that video. So this is just going to be pure shooting and multi-day too. Different magazines, mostly using Phoenix ammo because that's what I've got, guys. I just ordered a new one. I did have some Arms Core, but I'm getting really low on it. Obviously the steel case like Wolf, that's gone. Yeah, Phoenix is the best value I've found for decent quality ammo in 2025. Sue me. But I do use Patreon money to, buy that, as well as this new camera. Hey, it was a Prime Day deal. What can I do? So if you'd like to help support us, check out Patreon. Also, these videos were early released over there too, about a week earlier for those guys. I do what I can, but it's just me running the channel, so yeah, wearing a lot of hats around here. But we're going to compare and contrast these two 5.56 NATO 223 1-7 twist guns. Both feed from Stanag mags. Both are current versions of military issue rifles, but in semi-automatic only. I'm going to kind of rank them. I'm going to give them points in a system, and then at the end of the video, we're going to add up the points and see which is the better gun. We're going to look at features, ergonomics, shooting characteristics, and a little bit of price, value, and the accessories they come with. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible and not get into, historical basis and kind of cool factor. Obviously, I don't give a rat's ass about video games. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know what I mean. I can't play them, so I don't know what guns are in video games. I know that they do make a lot of guns popular, though. With that, yeah, I'm hot. So please do like, share, and subscribe, comment. Patreon again. Super thanks if you want to do it on YouTube. Trying out memberships too. Let's go inside and also start rolling the shooting clips. Here inside because, well, late July, early August heat and humidity in Arkansas, we're not staying out more than we have to. And in firing these two guns back-to-backs over a few days, I've had the Estonian for a few years, and I put a good number of rounds through it, so I'm very confident in it. And even though the A4 here is quite new, got it towards the beginning of this year, I've been trying to really get it to catch up. So it's been out to the range multiple times. And the first decision is the handguard to go with, because we have this. This is the long mag pull compatible, so M-lock handguard that the carbine version comes with. This is the short M-lock compatible that the A4 pistol comes with. So these are the kind of two in the running. I could pretty quickly disregard these. I showed these in the 416 history video. This is the early style, probably used around the A3 quad rail. It's neat and all, and it gets a reputation for being heavy. It's not too bad. What I don't like about it, it's sharp, because there's no gap in here, and these rails seem to stick out very proudly. Unless you have covers on it, there's no comfortable way to grip it, and it's relatively short, about 9 inches. Likewise, showed it in the video, this is the H-key handguard. It is more comfortable, has more of a ovular, rounded finish, but it's also about 9 inches. And of course, being H-key, there's not a lot of accessories except for rail sections you can put on it. It's neat for doing kind of an early G95 clone from like the KSK, but they've moved on to newer variants. So I'm going to stick that out. And one reason neither of those I really like is they don't completely cover the front of your gas block. If you look at even this shorter one, they extended it out just a bit, at about 1/2 inch, maybe a little more, 9.5, whatever, to cover kind of the base spring of the adjustable gas block. So these are the two handguards in question. And there's an argument to be made for which one is kind of Bundeswehr. But we're going to begin with the long one here. Alright, we're going to try the MR with the long mag pull and the steel mag. Why not? That's gentle. Get your held open. Can't say fairer than that. Yeah, in this configuration, very nice, smooth shooting gun. But now it's the Rahi Estonian's turn. Now, the LMT with the same Phoenix ammo and its mag pull mag. Still very gentle. Just a little bit more felt recoil than the Heckler & Koch, but then again, this has got more kind of going on with the forearm than this does. Not bad at all. I'm confident in the reliability of both of these guns. Also really dig this long B&T metal that I picked up from HK Parts. So now let's try the green mag in the Heckler & Koch and on the grip pod. Not bad at all. Very nice shooting with this, but it's not fair exactly, because this handguard adds a bit of weight. This foregrip, as long as it is and being metal, adds even more weight. The LMT doesn't have those features, and it does not have a modular handguard. But it does have one thing that I really like that the HK doesn't necessarily have. And I wouldn't call this a quick change barrel system. To my mind, quick change is like the AUG or the ACR. But it does have a very serviceable barrel system with bolts here holding your barrel assembly in. So your barrel can pull straight out, and that leaves your handguard as part of a monolithic upper. Meaning you can go from the 14.3 inch barrel here to the 12.2 inch barrel of the R20S in the Estonian service. As I said, the history of each is in the preceding videos. This has the removable handguard, modular there, but the barrel is like your standard AR barrel. It can be removed, but it's not something you're going to swap between readily. So with that, we really should compare them by putting the short, because it's about the same length overall as the LMT, and shoot them that way. You might be wondering about me swapping handguards so frequently. It's not usually a good idea to take parts on and off a gun repeatedly. You saw me already swapping all of these in the first video. The thing is, you have to on the 416 and MR556A1, A4 because it's part of the maintenance cycle. So as we swap these handguards, it actually gets me to a point where I'm going to give, well, a point to the LMT design, where I think it's superior, and that is disassembly and maintenance. Because on the HK, you have to pull your bolt with, some kind of wrench to get to the piston. Yeah, just unscrew your bolt. It does slide off. It's no big deal. See the barrel here? I do like that it still has the hole in the gas block. And this is your piston system you can get to here. Pull it out, go on and so forth. You do need your bolt in the rear position, otherwise you can't press it back. Just FYI. Not the worst in the world, but you are going to be screwing and unscrewing. Whereas the LMT takes the tack that I really enjoy. There's a spring-loaded button here, and that's it. It kind of just comes out, and there you go. Easy peasy. This is also where the single position, because it doesn't have any setting for a suppressor, doesn't become such a big deal because the Estonian military bought 2-position plugs, so all you have to do is just swap them out. Whereas, of course, the Heckler & Koch, the modern system, it's got a plug up here, S and N, suppressed and normal. So I'm not going to ding the LMT for that because actually the 2-position was the original. The single position was the modification for the standard 14.3-inch Rahe. With that, let's go on and slip the short on, because to me it's a more honest comparison, weight, size, and everything else wise. Now, just to be fair, I put on the short mag pull with the HK Gen 3 mag. Let's see. A little bit more felt recoil, absolutely not unpleasant, but you do feel it more without that extra weight out front. And of course, a good part of that is the grip pod too. Even though the HK is arguably more pleasant to shoot with the longer, heavier handguard on, it's a much closer and frankly more honest comparison of the two with the short one. And I actually kind of like the short a little better, looks and feel wise. It just makes the gun feel, well, a little more trim, because Piston AR derived guns are not known for being lightweight. The Estonian here, and these are just estimations, the 14.3-inch version is about 7.3 pounds unloaded, give or take. You bump the barrel to the 12.2-inch, so shave off just over 2 inches, and that does push it down to about 7 pounds. With the Heckler & Koch, it's really hard to judge the exact weight of any of the 416s because of how modular they are. We do know that the German tender specified 3.5 kilograms or less, and it seems like that's kind of where they hit it with the G95A1 16.5-inch barrel, which is about 7.7-ish pounds. If you have the G95A1 with the 14-inch barrel, that does get a little lighter, about 3.4 kilograms, so 7.5 pounds. So I'm going to say they are close. And again, variations and accessories you have on them matter. The LMT feels heavier to me, but I think that's because the barrel is heavy. This is a thick barrel on this gun. So when I'm thinking about the weight, most of it is out front. The back section, this feels pretty svelte. Whereas on the HK here, it's more even. That's one nice thing they did with the late A1s as well as the A4s. They slimmed that barrel down. It's still, not a thin barrel. But considering it is over 2 inches longer than the LMT, the fact that it feels lighter, it's a good thing. I think another part of it is the pistol grip. We'll get to the ergonomics in just a minute. But yeah, the weight is difficult to judge because one is maybe just a smidge lighter and the other one's just a smidge better balance. But then again, change the optics, change the handguard setup, that can differ. So what do you think? Let's set the guns behind me for a minute to talk about mags. We've been swapping between them. The A4 from HK will take pretty much any mags. Yes, the original A1, as with the original 416, the mag well came down just a little bit further in the front, which precluded the use of some mags, but this was more of a mag problem than a gun problem because they were made to spec. LMT, their OEM mag has been, Magpul, current generation, and that's what Estonia's gone with. They purchased Magpul mags. Nothing wrong with Magpul. And what I like about polymer mags, they either work or they don't. They have a little bit of flex to them, sure. They don't get super hot, super cold. And if they crack, you know it. If they break, you know it. Whereas metal can dent, ding, rust. And that does carry over to HK's Gen 3 polymer mag. I don't know which is better. They're so close weight-wise. I'm sure HK's built super well. But then again, nothing wrong with Magpul. If anyone knows like the chemistry of the polymer and can say, oh, one is going to hold up better than the other, fine. I do like that the base plate's pretty thick on the HK. The Gen 3 having the window, that's pretty nice if you want to check your ammo. Doesn't help me much, but helps you. And I do like how kind of curvy and ergonomic this is, but nothing wrong with Magpul. Then brought out, because I just have a couple of these more as collector items, the early generation HK polymers, the green translucent. Much like a lot of early mags, Arsenals, FB, Radom, Barils, these ended up being a little more delicate than people wanted. Now, the earliest polymers, the clear ones you see from different companies, were real bad about spider webbing. And there are reports of these HKs doing it too, but I've had these for years and they've held up fine. As you've seen, they're reliable enough. They're kind of an interesting look, very European. And then finally, the oldest mag here, the HK high reliability steel mag. This thing is at least double the weight. Anti-tilt follower though, it's chunky. Like I said earlier though, the problem with steel mags, they're sturdy right up until they dent and then they don't rebound. And steel can theoretically rust. We've also had some just, generic GI American alloy mags that I leave out at the cabin. The point is, mag testing throughout this video, there were no mag compatibility problems. And for comparison, LMT and one of the HK mags in it. Why not? We can mix and match here. Still using Phoenix right now. They are much closer together. So, reliability, mag compatibility, that's fine. Quality of the construction. They both feel very well built. There is Virtually no play in the upper to lower fit in my LMT. A bit of side to side, basically no up and down in the back. In the front, it's solid. Again, handguard fit, solid because it's monolithic. When it comes to the H&K, the back is rock solid, with just almost just hair's breadth. The front has just a little bit of wiggly play. Very, very close together. And your handguard, well, you need to get it screwed down, but we have never experienced one coming loose under recoil. You just dog your screw down good, and you should be fine. As far as one thing here that people gripe about, the polymer port door, that's never bothered me. Why would it? For one, it's smacking against your receiver. I'd rather have polymer versus metal hitting my receiver anyway. For another, a metal one can bend and not fit right. A polymer one is either going to flex and go back to its shape, or it's just going to break and you replace it. But HK polymer is fine. If you trust polymer for your mags and everything else, why would you not trust it for your port door? Not to mention, you know, just better in the cold. So this one having a more traditional metal one is fine. I'm not going to give a point to the HK for the polymer, but it's one of those concerns. It's not a concern, but if you don't like it from an aesthetic point of view, cool. But in the real world, just realize it's a personal taste thing because you get what you get. Now, I will say, this has a cold hammer forged barrel, but it is not chrome lined. That bothers some people. This one is chrome lined, and I believe these are hammer forged, but I could be wrong, so let me know if you know. So you can give a point to the LMT for having the chrome lined barrel if you want. But for me, it doesn't hurt this gun, and keep in mind, HK USA has a lifetime replacement warranty. This is supposed to be made from German steel brought over. They give reasons why it's not chrome lined. I would definitely trust this over like a nitride barrel from the US, because regardless, it is a quality barrel, and it is an HK barrel. But if you want, yeah, we can give the bump to the LMT for that. As far as accuracy, yeah, there's not much I can tell you about that. It does seem like, theoretically, this is a slightly more accurate gun. People get 1 MOA. But with the LMT, people report quite good results too in the 1 point something, 1.5, 1.6. And for a combat gun, that's a difference that doesn't matter. For a target gun, a match gun, it does. But we're kind of more evaluating them and just giving my personal thoughts. And since I'm more of a military collector, I think they're both superior to Kalashnikovs and even most, you know, Colt ARs, FN ARs. But you got to give just a slight edge to the HK, I would say, when it comes to accuracy. So on the one hand, chrome lined. On the other hand, better accuracy. When it comes to the barrel, I'd give it a draw. Furniture, ergonomics. Well, they both have slimline stocks. The LMT's is a Magpul. It's fine. Got a little play in it, but not bad at all. The HK has a thing. Standard, you know, castle nut here. Pretty standard, all that. The pistol grip, it really does remind me of the old school Wilson Combat AR grips. I like it. It's kind of got a tacky finish to it. It's rubber, but not too. It does have a storage compartment. That's nice. It's a little hard to get to, the way they did the screw in it, but it's all right. The forearm. It's not the longest, so that might bother some people. But It does come with rail panels. I think it comes with 3. I added a few more. You do it like this. This is a comfortable and, again, kind of tacky forearm that matches the grip. And it's very slim. Like, there's just enough room for the barrel to pass through. It's not a bloated, uneven, what have you. Yeah, really digging the forearm. So, forearm, definitely like. Pistol grip, it's good if you like this style. I personally do. But stock, fine, average. Nothing really to write home about one way or the other. Pretty good. As for our HK here, let's go in reverse, the forearm. Put the short one on, but this goes true for the long one as well. It's not bad. I've got, covers over it, but it does stick out more. The bottom, the top. It's not as bad as the early style quad rail, but if you're going to grip it directly, it's not as comfortable as the LMT. Of course, if you have a rail, do that. But I'm going to give it, and this is just personal opinion, to the LMT when it comes to the ergos of the forearm. As for the pistol grip, I really like this kind of modern style grip. It's not rubbery, it's just got a texture to it. Although it doesn't have a storage compartment. But again, you can replace these, no big deal. I do like kind of the angle. It's pretty vertical, it's just a little bit of a sweep back. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give it a draw on the pistol grip. I think both have their merits. It's just kind of a matter if you like the kind of tacky finish and the more groovy ergo look of the LMT. The problem with those types of grips, if the grooves line up with your fingers, great. If they don't, they can be uncomfortable. This is more ambiguous about where your fingers need to go, and so it does allow for a pretty high grip if you need it. I wish it did have a storage compartment, but I think they're going for weight. So yeah. Butt stock. I like this stock. It's beefy, but not near as beefy as the original 416 or the A1. And it has these spring-loaded doofuses here. Ball bearings, one on each side, or yeah, 2 on each side. One is back here covered up. That keeps a very nice tight fit. And I also really like the extended castle nut because it gives it that little bit of bump up. We do have a QD there. Comparing it to the LMT with just more of a traditional, you see there's that gap. There's nothing wrong with that gap, but why have it? Extend out your castle nut. It makes everything a little stronger, gives your stock something to bump up against, and it's just one less area for something to get caught in. It also has a QD down here. So on the buttstock, I'm giving it to the HK. So for what it's worth, we've kind of got a draw. I like the handguard on one better, the stock on the other better, and when it comes to the pistol grip, I think it's a matter of taste, even mine, depending on which day of the week you ask me. Both do have extended trigger guards. I do like the ovular one here for winter gloves. But, the LMT is pretty much doing the same thing here. Both of them are removable. Some other guns, you're stuck with it. I'm not going to make a judgment there. I think the HK maybe is a little more aesthetically appealing, but yeah, both have extended trigger guards. And just to be sure, a green mag with the short grip. Let's see how she does. Yeah, I'm going to say the HK, little less felt recoil. And it's not really recoil versus the LMT. It's kind of vibration, if that makes sense. The controls, Ergonomics, both are fully ambidextrous. Again, kind of coming out of the IC program. There you go. The Mars here, it has more conventional looking. Let's talk about the bolt. release, it's here. And then they did a very good job of just making the same kind of control on the right side over here. I like that. The HK, little newer gun, on the left side we have a pretty standard bolt catch, bolt release. On this side though, it's kind of interesting. It's turned into a lever. It's an interesting solution. It does throw me off just a tiny bit though, that the same control has a very radically different shape on this side versus this side. I'd almost like it if it was the same on either side, like it is on the LMT. With the LMT this time, and we'll use HK mags. Use the bolt release here on the right. I always like that one on this gun. It's pretty smooth, just a little bit of feel and a little bit of springy, but nothing at all egregious. Let's try the HK. Bolt release. A little different style on this gun. Not sure if it's better or worse. They are close, guys. They really, really are. Now they're horrible, but I'm going to give the control to the LMT. But I think it's mostly a training thing. What about the mag catch? It's also ambi. These are, of course, all new features with the A4. Nice and large on this side, pretty standard on this side. No issues there. On the LMT, though, pretty standard on this side, but on this side, the left, that's pretty small and an awkward movement. You don't press it in. It's actually hinged at the top, so you kind of press down. And it's got a big protective fence there. Now, I think they did that so when it's being carried, it cannot be accidentally hit. Makes sense for military use, because you do hear complaints about soldiers accidentally ejecting that. So maybe from a soldier's point of view, it's better. But I like the HK mag release system, ambidextrous as it is, better than on the LMT. This isn't horrible. I just think the HK, from a, my point of view, just a civilian or end shooter, is a little better. And this is not a new thing. I have pointed out this very small and maybe overly protected control in the past videos. So when it comes to the mag catch, point goes to the HK, I would say. But then we move back to this safety. Very standard AR on either side. But both of them have the feature where your hammer can be uncocked, so forward, and your safety can be manipulated on or off. I've said in many videos, including the recent ones, I like that feature a heck of a lot. And it's a European gun thing, and I wouldn't mind if it got more and more popular here. So, see here, safety's down. The HK, though, it has a 45-degree throw versus 90. It has a polymer-coated metal core safety, very much like other HK guns, MP5, the G96. So it's a short throw safety. I'm definitely going to give the point to the HK when it comes to that. I really like this feature. It's actually quite new for the A4, and it's something we just first saw with the Bundeswehr's 416A8. There might have been some A7s that had it too, but it's a pretty new feature, and I really dig it from an ergonomic standpoint all the way. So there are our controls. for each. But what about the most important one? The trigger. Let's do a head-to-head. Same magazine, same Phoenix ammo in each, and I'll keep it on with the shorter handguard on the HK because it just seems to be the more honest comparison. Okay. Now for our LMT friend here. There is a different feel. But one is not just clearly, overtly better than the other. Starting with the LMT, dry firing. It's a nice military grade type trigger. Certainly superior to your average AR15. By the way, both do have ambidextrous controls for the bolt as well. The HK, yeah. A more tactile, audible reset. The HK has a nicer trigger. The LMT's no slouch. HK, nicer trigger. Since I've been using them, what about the ambidextrous? They're very close, frankly. LMT's is a little more compact, which is not always a bad thing, frankly. When you're getting in the field and, you know, gear getting hooked on things, yeah, the HK sticks out a bit more. It also has a little bit of a slicker texture. I think if you're just going to grab it with one hand, it's superior. If you're going two hands, LMT. Man, it's close. I think I like the LMT just a teeny bit more. It's got finer serrations. It's a little more grippy. This one does stick out a bit more. That could get hooked on things. Yeah, I think the LMTs overall, I would rate just a little bit better in practical terms, but it's almost a draw. But take it for what you will. Again, trigger, HK is clearly the winner. Hello, no, yes, I know, I haven't been paying attention to you. But the charging handle, it's real close. Let's compare the internals, namely the bolt carrier groups. But first, the pivot pins. Gotta give credit to HK USA for going away from the proprietary pins to just standard, you know, AR push pins. That's a good thing. But I gotta give a little nod to the LMT here because it does something I really like. It has standard pins, sure, but they're dimpled. And that is so you can push them, but if they're stuck or whatever else, you can use a bullet tip. And it centers it, keeps it from slipping off. And it goes from there. Whereas with a, you know, regular smooth pin, it's not a big deal at all. But, you know, you could slip off, do all that. So, credit there to HK for fixing an issue, but I'm going to give the point to LMT when it comes to that. I'm going to try a bit of slower pace fire with the LMT. Yeah, very consistent. Ejection seems very even. The bolt groups. Now, of course, with a piston gun, you don't have a gas key as such on top. It's just where the external piston short stroke engages. Both of these are very similar up here, and both have a AR style bolt. And both do something that I really like. Just gonna hold it here. Captive retaining pin. It's a little smaller head on the HK, but it too is captive. This is something I think the AR should have had from the very beginning. What do you think, though? I see no downsides to it. The pin is just something that can get lost or bent. The early ARs had a machined pin. Later, they went to the cotter pin, we know. Yeah. Now, this has a nice, really smooth finish on it. The HK, it's a little more of a phosphatey finish, and yes, they're dirty. We've been shooting, and I still have a little more shooting to do, so it's going to stay. But notice how the bolt moves, whereas this is just standard. It's free-floating as far as that goes. This has a spring-loaded firing pin. I like that, to try to avert slam fires, you know, primer penetration or light primer strikes. That, to me, gives the advantage over the LMT. Not that this is a problem. Also, maybe a little more controversial, the safety. I like that this has a firing pin safety. The pin can't be pressed all the way in until the hammer pushes this up. It's actually taken from the G36. And it's really kind of in response to the early cyclic rates. Now, your first generation 416 didn't have these, but newer ones obviously would. Even though I really think the finish on the LMT is nice, even though the LMT is completely unchanged, notice this notch in the HK bolt. I still think I like the HK design a little more. What do you think? But I'm going to give the point to the HK bolt system. I'm going to try a little slow fire out of the H&K now. Interesting. That's the first time it hasn't held open in the last round. Can we call that a malfunction? Nah. Because I'm kind of using bucket ammo right now. Stuff at the bottom. Oh yeah, she's a dirty girl. Been shooting quite a bit. There is a restrictor bar notch type thing right up here in the receiver of the MR4, just like the A1. That means that a standard automatic bolt group can't go in. This bothers some people. It doesn't bother me. I'm just going to be honest. This is my review. So I'm not going to ding it for it. Sorry. A lot of guns, especially when they involve imports, you kind of have to do what you have to do. There's your hammer. It is the hooked style. Really nice trigger. And just because, here's our LMT. Different style of hammer. No restrictor bar as such. Of course, these are 100% made in the USA. She's a little cleaner. I'm not sure. I guess on this range trip, she's had a few less rounds put there than the HK, but she does seem to be a little more. I'm not going to ding the HK there either, but kind of worth pointing out. Perfectly nice trigger on this guy too. Both have heavier buffers, although I feel like the HK has a heavier spring besides. Back together, same as any other AR type. Bolt through. The HK is very smooth, but as I said, heavier spring. It's got some oomph to it to pull it back. Of course, the flip side is it does help with recoil. The LMT, it's smooth because of that finish on the carrier, and it is a lighter throw. But that also means it might have a little more felt recoil. I don't know. It's getting really close. I'm going to give the edge to the HK, but just barely. It's just a little bit smoother, and I don't mind them stiff on the throw. Are we splitting hairs? Yes. Yes, we are. But that's what a review is, because they're so neck and neck. So much so that let's try them with their stocks. Like this. One more go. HK's got its old-fashioned steel mag. And I decided to do it with the stock fully collapsed in for whatever that's worth. I don't know. Still very smooth. Getting a little gas in the nose. Nothing horrible, but I wouldn't want to breathe it all day. Same deal with the LMT. And since its OEM mag is a mag pool, that's what I'll go with. I think what I figured out, the LMT has a little more flip to the up and right. The HK has a little more push to just rearward. I will say too, with the stock collapsed in and therefore my nose closer to the breech, this is a little less gassy, which does make sense because that was one of the concerns that the Estonian trials were worried about. All right, let's go have some final thoughts. Interesting. I was not expecting that. The HK with stock fully out, or even in a notch because I am short and I assumed it was right there. I didn't notice it as much. Same ammo from Phoenix throughout the day. But when I was right up on it, I felt like there was some more blowback, kind of, gas in my face. And that might explain why she's just a little bit dirtier inside. I feel like that piston is letting a little more gas, carbon, other debris kind of blow back in there. Whereas this, yeah, I know. This LMT, I wasn't sucking gas. And that was one of the Estonian requirements. They were concerned about their soldiers breathing fumes. I'm not worried as a civilian shooter who, shoots a few thousand rounds a month, but if you're in the military and you serve for 20 years, I get it. But it does seem like this piston system, still both a short stroke, just lets less get back into the action here. Again, surprising result, but point to the LMT. All right, now that we get kind of towards the end, let's zoom back out again and talk about value for money. Overall costs, I'm not going to get very specific because it'll change and that's not the point. Also, what you get with it. I will give credit to the HK. Most people who bought the original A1 or they bought a 416 parts kit from Brownells, there was a lot of work needed if they were going for a clone rifle. This one, though, based on the current Bundeswehr G95A1 spec, you're pretty well good to go. Now, the forearm's not quite there. It doesn't have the QD forearm, and it's H key versus M-lock. I'm fine with that change. Chrome lined or not chrome lined, I've already talked about that. But the pistol grip, the stock, all the little bits and bobs, mostly having the adjustable gas system. And I really do love that they gave the correct safety. And not just for a clone person, but just because it's a great safety. I wish they'd given the right mag. They ship these with Magpul mags. Only one. Very underwhelming. Also, you do not get any sights at all. Obviously, no optic. Obviously, this is not a real Elka inspector, but clone. I put on these Troy folding sights because the German one does use a 45 degree. I do think they fit well on this gun. So no sights in the thing. You do get a pretty nice tactical carry case. You get the HK multi-tool. So a little bit of extra there. But not much. It's pretty bare bones. And for what these run, I would kind of want more, frankly. The LMT, as a reference rifle, they nail this. It comes with a Magpul mag, but this doesn't bother me because that's what they ship with. It comes with the Vickers sling. I like these slings. I actually bought several for use in my own guns. They're modern without being obnoxious. I do wish there was a QD socket on the stock, but that goes for the HK as well, so it's again a draw. You do get the LMT sights. It does seem a little odd to me that they don't have a detent to stay up. It just folds, but they're there. And again, because it is a reference rifle, the single position is fine. It has a pin and welded barrel, but it is threaded 1/2x28 if someone did want to SBR it. Or you could just, unbolt the barrel and swap it out. It even comes with 3 rail covers. On the other hand, it doesn't come with the tool. You have to buy that extra for the barrel. And it doesn't come with a tactical case. It just comes in a cardboard box, which, fine, but a little bit better. So right there, you see this comes with more. And it is set up identical to an Estonian rifle. Of course, they also have British references and all that. I love that series. And they don't make a ton of these, and that's fine because it's a niche thing. I wish HK USA would make a reference series. That'd be awesome. And it is cheaper. I don't even know I've had this one so long, but I think we can say that the HK, no matter what, is a more spendy gun than the LMT. So for value for money, for what they come with, and just overall price, again, got to give it to the LMT. Plus, it's got this. Like this. Wish you have something when you run out of ammo. Surefire wear to my heart is include a bayonet lug. Can you tell I survived the Clinton ban? I just think it's cool. Didn't hurt anything. Works great. Here's a Colt bayonet. Actually, it's an Icorn Colt branded bayonet, but see how well it fits. But I'm not actually going to ding the HK for not having a bayonet lug. Only because it doesn't seem like the Bundeswehr ultimately went with the lug. I know some of the early prototypes had lugs, but see, if you mounted it around here, it'd come to here. And they could have put one out, but it seems like they are going with the long handguard, so you can't have both. So, you're not getting dinged there, HK. Only because you got lucky and the Bundeswehr didn't want a lug. Well, I think that's really all the aspects I have. Both guns have a really good, sturdy, solid feel to them. Both don't feel commercial grade, if you will. Yeah, I could get used to this release. It's just a little different. Man, that trigger, though. And the safety. Everything just falls well on there. They have both been 100% reliable. I haven't edited out any goofs. We've had no trouble with steel out of either one, although, again, we were shooting the brass case Phoenix that I actually just bought a case of, and it came, so that's what we had. And, you know, you'll be able to get HK parts very easily, but what are you going to pay for them? So accessories, there you go. Have I missed anything? I'm sure I have in some level, but let me know. I guess it's about time to kind of add up the points and come to some conclusion. Trying to keep my educated out to fall. Before we do that, though, I did bring out one other Piston AR-derived gun, and it wasn't really fair to compare it directly. It's a different kind of class and type. The Taiwanese T91. Actually, haven't had it out in quite some time. I had a lot of fun building this gun. It is Piston. But it's not really honest or sincere to compare it to HK or LMT directly. However, since I did have it and we were shooting, we used the same mag, same ammo, and the results were a little surprising. But it deserves its own video because I want to be fair to it. This upper was from T91 Tactical. The lower I did myself from an 80%er. The other parts, I think, mostly came from T91 Tactical. And I have it set up as kind of a somewhat modernized gun, although I have the carry handle sight on it because the QD sight has issues. And I do have a factory mag in it, although, well, you'll see in that video. They have some interesting quirks themselves. But with that, let's kind of wrap this thing up. So what's the final tally? I went back through, reviewed what I said, added things up. I didn't dock points on either way, but there were some things like the pistol grip and the port door. I just didn't give credit either way because it's kind of a matter of choice. There's other things where each one got a point, so they effectively canceled each other out. For example, with the LMT, I gave it a point for having a chrome line bore because so many people don't like that the MR556A1 and A4 don't have it. I don't care. It's a cold hammer forged barrel, great steel, and has a warranty. But I try to be intellectually honest here. I dinged it. On the flip side, even though I can't shoot for accuracy, I don't think many would disagree with the assertion the HK is probably an inherently slightly more accurate gun. So 2 different points there. There you go. Another example with the furniture. The HK easily gets it for the buttstock, receiver extension. the whole thing from the castle nut to the detents, making it tight. It's simply superior to what LMT offers. Conversely, I really love this LMT handguard. Again, you can easily mount rails on it, but I love how circular it is. To me, the furniture kind of comes off as even Steven. As for the controls, credit to the LMT for having a safety you can flick on with the trigger uncocked. And it got it for the bolt release on this side being pretty well similar to this side. But it kind of lost it on the mag catch to the HK here. I like the side better. So that's even. But where the HK pulled ahead, it too has the safety that can go on with the hammer uncocked. But I love the 45-degree throw and the shape better. Not to mention the trigger. It's just better on the HK. Not that the LMT is shabby. But as the HK is pulling ahead, and this is a judgment call, I admit it's a narrow thing, the charging handle. Went over that. The bolt we talked about, I gave a little bit of advantage to the HK, but I could almost give it to the LMT because I really like the finish on the bolt. And really fit and finish wise, maybe you can tell a difference. Both seem very high quality guns to me. And on top of that, I really liked the disassembly method for the LMT getting to your piston. It just seems more efficient, and I like that you can swap plugs out very easily. That's why I didn't ding it for only having a single position. I didn't give it credit for having a bayonet lug, although it's a sweet-ass bonus. Still, the HK is pulling ahead by just a bit. It's, at this point, 2 or 3 points ahead, but what lets the LMT catch up? Price, cost, value. Once upon a time, HK included iron sights and a very nice factory mag. They don't anymore. On top of that, the price point. This is a more expensive gun than the LMT. LMT, lower price tag, although the Estonian, the reference rifle, is more expensive than your standard Mars. But it comes with rail covers, iron sights, a sling. So you get a little extra, and it's cheaper. And I do like that it's a factory pin-in welded barrel. I didn't give it credit for that, but it gives that original, authentic military vibe. The HK is fine because the G95A1 does have a 16.5. That's actually why I picked it over the pistol. I talked about that in a separate video. So there's that. So in terms of value, the LMT is stretching ahead again. But if money is no object, by a narrow margin, HK is winner. It's just a little bit smoother to shoot, even with the short handguard. If you have the long handguard that this does ship with default, it's no question. It's just a little lighter recoil. And this might be a little interesting to you. This is, on paper, a heavier gun than the LMT. Not by much, just, you know, at most a quarter of a pound. However, the LMT has such a beefy barrel, even if it's shorter. It's so front heavy because of that, plus the monolithic upper receiver. And it has such a slim trim stock and everything. It does feel a little less well balanced than the Heckler & Koch. And I've said this in many videos, like the CZ Bren, the original 805. Weight isn't everything. At least to me, balance actually counts for a lot. And this gun, because it does have a slightly heavier stock and tube, and it has a slightly thinner profile, if also longer barrel, And maybe a lighter handguard than the LMT. I don't know. Now, part of it, too, is the optic. This has got the knockoff L-can on it. That's got the two Holosuns. I would imagine they weigh about the same, all things considered, but I could be wrong. But, yeah, if you don't mind the cost, I do feel the Heckler & Koch is just a better shooting experience. The controls where it excels, namely the trigger and the safety selector, are somewhat more vital than the controls where this excels, again, namely the bolt catch and the charging handle. Judge for yourself. And if not even on a budget, these are not cheap, but I do think this is better value for money. I do. However, as a shooter, the HK wins, and also perhaps as a collectible. We don't know the future, but HKs do tend to hold their value well. LMTs do too, at least better than like a PSA. But there's a market for HKs. Even though this is assembled in the USA, most of the components do come from Germany, either finished or a little unfinished and finished out here by HK USA. To me, the A4 is what Americans have been asking for. The A1, I admit, left a little bit to be desired, especially if you wanted to be a cloner. And I think the reason people have fixated so much on the non-chrome lined bore is because that and the price, which is another thing folks complain about, are really about the only two things you can complain about. I can jokingly gripe about it coming with a Magpul mag, but I'm not being terribly serious about that. By the way, trying to be a little honest, I did give Heckler & Koch a point for developing their own mag. Nothing wrong with Magpul, but LMT didn't. Estonian didn't create one. I think developing mags in-house is pretty cool. It gives you your own thing. So just thought I'd mention that too. It's a great gun. It gives us the ambi controls. It is lighter. We got rid of the funky proprietary pins. It can take all magazines now. And probably most important in this day and time, the adjustable gas system. Suppressors are just so popular, and it's so easy to do, to adjust. Even with the long handguard, the way they designed it. It's great. It really is. This is what the 416 was meant to be. It took them 20 years to kind of get here with the 416A7, A8, based on the A5. I admit the early ones had issues. But then again, the Estonian over here, you know, this is not LMT's first rodeo. They've been in the business since the 80s. They've been working on their Mars platform, what they consider Generation 4 M16 type, for years too. And they do offer internal and external piston systems, so direct impingement or piston. They customize to Estonia's specs. And it's really interesting to me that European nations are going with gas pistons almost exclusively now, no matter where they get them. And of course, this is a much smaller production gun, although LMT's doing well. And I will add, in their defense, I know there's been accusations in more recent years about quality control issues from LMT. All I can say is I haven't experienced any with my gun, and I've sold a handful in the store, and I haven't had any bad reports from customers. I'll remind you that every single factory, HK, SIG, not that SIG, the good SIG in Switzerland, everyone turns out a lemon, especially right after the COOF. So there's a little bit of a grace period there. It's like back in 2009, right after the Obama election, manufacturers got a little slipshod either because they were in such a rush. So a little bit of grace there. And I can tell you that HK, They had some mistakes with their USCs and some other things. So it will happen. Take it for what you will. So, winner by a narrow margin. It was literally a 9-8 was the HK. That is considering cost. If you take cost out, it drops down to about 9-7, maybe even 9-6. But I get it if you don't. Now, I will just kind of conclude by saying reports of these being 4K are not true. Street price is much lower, and as they hit the market more and more, it'll drop down quite a bit. Conversely, I don't know how many Estonian reference rifles LMT is making in 2025. Of course, they're still making Mars guns, so it's no big deal. And their initial contract with Estonia ends next year, so they may not make more. Certainly a smaller production gun. I mean, the contract with Estonia was roughly 20,000. Germany alone bought nearly 120,000. Actually, more than that if you count previous versions. Nearly 130 of the 416 HK. Much larger outfit, much better production. The fact that LMT has been able to kind of keep up with one of the greatest gun makers in the world, that says a lot. I don't think you'd be ill-served with either one. Well, what do you think? Let me know, because I'm sure you will in the comments. But yeah, winner by a narrow margin, Heckler & Koch. It probably didn't surprise anyone, but it might come as a little surprise that the LMT, the Estonian, the Rahe R20 hung in so close. And as I kind of teased a minute ago, that Taiwanese T91, we had it out too. It's going to be in its own video, but results with it were surprising in both directions too. Very informal comparison, but if interested, check that out. And if you'd like to help support us, we went through a lot of ammo doing this, and I do buy the ammo. Go over and hit support on Patreon. You can do Super Thinks on YouTube here. And I'm trying to do memberships. The problem there for me is memberships, you have a lot of visual elements like badges and pictures and stuff. Guess what? I can't really do that unless you just want cat pics. So working on that too is another alternative. Trying to get through this as we sweat through August of 2025. Definitely have, hot and dry and hot and humid tested these. And to be fair, I've shot both of these in the cold too and had no issues. With that, appreciate everyone hanging out in this kind of 3-part series. And let me know what you'd like to see next, because this comparison is really because Patreon's asked me. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.